Now, here is the main point I want to sink in, because this has been right in your face for days, and almost nobody has noticed, apparently. None of the people out there I see wearing masks and standing 6 feet apart and doing all this. At no point did the government ever claim that standing 6 feet apart and wearing masks and staying home and shutting down businesses would reduce the number of people who get this disease. I'm gonna repeat that. Please pay attention. This is important. At no point did they claim that any of those measures would actually reduce the number of people who get this disease. And they're right. It won't. You've heard flattening the curve, and no doubt you've seen that picture of arch that goes like this and an arch that goes like that. The area under the two arches is the same. That means they are expecting the same number of people to get this. All of those measures were designed only to slow down the rate of spread of the disease, not to actually limit the spread and how many people get it. When you see signs out there that said, help stop the spread of COVID-19, that is a lie. And every one of the experts has explained over and over again, the point here is not to stop the spread of this. That is impossible. It's way too late. It's utterly impossible. All of these measures from their own mouths, all of these measures were intended only to slow down the spread of it with the goal of not overwhelming hospitals. That was it. You think you're doing it to keep yourself safe and to keep other people safe. You're not. And if you pay attention to what the experts say, you will see that what they are doing is irresponsible and evil. They are making you do things that are making this worse. So, the goal of not overwhelming the hospitals. Once upon a time, that was a good idea. And there are a few hospitals that got overwhelmed. The vast majority of hospitals right now, not only are they not overwhelmed, they're empty. They're laying off nurses right and left. They're firing people. They're not doing other procedures. A lot of people who need important procedures aren't getting it because the hospitals are dead all over the place. Now, there may be a few that are still crowded. A few of the ones that all the COVID-19 patients are being sent to are still overwhelmed. Lots and lots aren't. Here's a point that so many people miss. They see numbers thrown out there. They see percentages. At first, they saw mortality rates like 4.7 blah. That was a lie from the beginning. This is not controversial. All of the experts have backtracked and said, oh, it's way more prevalent. It's way more all over the place. Way more people have had it, which means the mortality rate is way lower. Initially, they were just measuring the number of people who were sick enough to go get tested, and then the percentage of those who died. And they were talking about that as if it's a mortality rate. And some of us immediately said, well, what about all the people who didn't bother to get tested? Like who had it but didn't go into the hospital to get tested? Sure enough, the studies in New York, the studies in California, this is all over the mainstream news, studies in prisons, studies on Navy ships, more and more it's springing up all over the place that they find, oh, this is already way more widespread than we thought. Way more people have already had it, and a lot of them never had symptoms. The curve is flattened. At this point, listen closely. If you have a compromised immune system, or if you're coming in contact with someone with a compromised immune system, there is reason to take special precautions to make sure you don't get this. That's always true. That's true every year. It's true every flu season. Elderly people and people who have health problems that make them more susceptible to something being the final straw that kills them, that's a concern. It's a real concern. It's a real concern with this. It's a real concern with the flu every single year. Yes, that's a real thing. For everybody else, all the young, healthy people, listen carefully, because even the media admits this. The best thing you can do is get this disease and recover. Now, you're probably saying, what? What do you mean the best thing I can do? They're telling you this, and people aren't noticing. The way this goes away, you know the curve? It doesn't come down by magic. It doesn't come down by vaccines. It doesn't come down by luck. It doesn't come down by running out of people. It comes down by burning out or herd immunity, depending on how you want to describe that. This happens literally every year with the flu and other viruses. Keep in mind, for centuries, with all kinds of viruses and diseases, the thing that makes them go away is not vaccines or government studies or tests. It is people's immune systems. A virus or other disease goes away or dwindles down to almost nothing when lots of people get the thing and their immune systems fight and learn how to defeat it. And yet the media and those in power focus on interfering with people's lives instead of telling people how they can strengthen their immune systems by doing things like getting more vitamin C and D and sunshine and fresh air and so on. Instead, they literally advise things that make it worse. The rest of the world, the mainstream media is already reporting this. The rest of the world is going to see millions of people starving to death from the solutions. And the idiotic media is saying, oh, COVID-19 is going to cause this famine. No, it's not. Government shutdowns destroying the economy are going to cause millions of people to die. It isn't this stupid virus. You look in India, they're not even up to 1,000 deaths in a population of 1 point whatever billion people. But the shutdowns are destroying the economy. And there's a bunch of people over there saying, we're going to be starved. We're literally going to be starved. There's people starving in India on a daily basis anyway. So what am I suggesting people should do? Should people go and protest and go scream and holler at Capitol buildings and governors and stuff? If you want to do that, be my guest. They don't particularly care what you want. If they cared about you, they wouldn't be doing this. But if you want to go tell them and scream at them and tell them how horrendous they are and ask for their permission to open up again, okay, do that. Not sure it'll do any good, but do that. In the meantime, let me be perfectly clear. If government orders you to do something which puts innocent lives in jeopardy, disobey the goddamn government. Go back to work. Go be productive. Go get the friggin' disease and get over it if you're young and healthy, because that literally gets over this whole problem. They are commanding people to do things that will kill other people. Are you going to do things that will literally kill other people? If you think it's a risk to you and you feel the need to do that because you think it's a risk to you or you don't want to be a risk to somebody else with a compromised immune system, fine. But guilt-tripping people who are literally keeping the world alive by being productive, that is some serious privileged bullshit. I don't give a crap what the politicians tell me. I don't give a crap what their mindless badge-wearing idiots tell me. I do want to throw in a moment of praise for the cops and the sheriffs who had the spine to come out and say, we're not going to enforce this Nazi garbage because this is ridiculous. So bravo to them for at least drawing a line somewhere and saying, no, we're not going to play Gestapo today. Good for you. There is suffering here and there is way worse suffering in the rest of the world. Do not contribute to death and suffering just because government told you to. Learn to disobey immoral orders. And when everyone can finally see how much worse the solutions were than the actual problem, when there is no doubt in anybody's mind that this virus was way less of a threat than they said, and the solutions were way more of a threat, you remember who did it. You remember the cops who enforced it. You remember the mayors and the governors and the politicians who forced this, who forced something that is making so many people suffer and die in the name of their fake-ass compassion. You remember who did it, and you make them pay for it.